This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires BeliefCast podcast. As you know, I call it a BeliefCast because I'm passionate about belief systems. There's an old Latin proverb that says, believe that you have it and you have it. And I learned this a long time ago from one of my mentors, and it's made, some of the most impactful differences in my life. And so I'm really passionate about it. I even get emotional about it sometimes. And as you know, I bring on some amazing guests who have some incredible stories, who have overcome some really difficult things in their life, and now they're striving and living their life with passion and on fire. Today is no exception. I have Jake Fisher today. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, he's got an incredible story. I'm so excited for you guys to get to hear this story. He's very open. He's very real. He doesn't hold back. He's had a really rough go at times, but what he's doing now is pretty incredible, and in the way he lives his life, he's actually a really great example to myself. I consider him a really good friend as well. So,
likewise.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. How's
Thanks
things going?
Things are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't be better.
I do want to mention we are at Wasatch Recovery Treatment Center. Jake and I actually both work there as well. Great, one of the greatest, I call it the greatest university on the planet.
I love
I know
that.
you probably agree.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So we get to rub shoulders every day at the same time. So I feel very blessed to know Jake. But here we are at Wasatch, and we get to see each other every day.
Yeah, here we are at work. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's just kind of share with our listeners a little bit about you and kind of where you grew up, a little bit about your family life.
Okay. I grew up in West Bountiful, so Davis County.
Okay.
Lived there really my whole life. I've got an older sister, a younger brother, and a younger sister.
Okay.
And I played sports most of my life.
Which sports did you play?
Baseball was really my thing. I played basketball and football as well, but I wasn't as good at those sports.
So baseball was your thing?
Baseball was my thing.
What position did you play in baseball?
I played a bit of outfield and second base in high school.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah.
So did you go to Bountiful?
I went to Viewmont.
Viewmont, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Good old Viewmont.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I played with the group of kids that I played with my whole life. They all were going to Bountiful or to Viewmont, and the boundaries got changed. And so I went and saw the school board and put on glasses and told them that my cousin had gone on a mission to Germany, and that to go to Viewmont I wanted to take German. Bountiful didn't have German class. Viewmont did.
Okay.
So that I could go play with those same guys.
And it worked out.
It worked out. Yeah.
That's some good thinking on your part.
Right. I think it was more my parents.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
This is a good. Yeah, this is something you could do to probably convince them to have you go there.
Yeah. Right.
Right on.
Yeah.
So did you after high school? Did you go to college or anything like that, or did you play sports afterwards?
I didn't. I didn't play sports afterwards. I went to a tech school.
Okay.
After a bit of time, and became a network engineer.
That's right. Okay.
So I was a computer guy for a while.
Yeah, and then you used to. That was your career for quite a
for like 20 years,
right?
Yeah, about
20 years.
20 years. I worked with a bunch of great guys at a company called Pro Image Sports. Initially, when I hired, right out of high school, I was filing. I filed invoices all day.
Oh, wow.
And then just quickly moved up in the company and became the IT department.
You were the department, right?
Yeah, after some time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
It all fell on you.
Yeah.
So 20 years.
20 years I was
with them.
That's a long time. Mm-hmm. It is a long time.
So when you think of your childhood, I know you've been through some things which we'll get into here in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But was it did you feel like it was a good childhood?
It was great. It was a happy childhood. We went on a lot of family vacations. Mm-hmm. I grew up water skiing a lot. Okay. So we were always at the lake.
Nice.
So yeah, I just remember a lot of happy times.
Okay. So overall, it's a pretty good thing. So we're gonna kind of get into your story, and for our listeners, obviously you've been through some tough times, and it revolved a lot around drugs and alcohol and things like that. And so, why don't you go back a little bit and kind of let us know when that kind of started and kind of go through that for us.
Okay. So right out of high school, all throughout high school, I didn't drink or use. And in fact, my friends at the time would hide that from me because
Really?
I would give them a hard time if I knew that they were drinking.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were clean all through high school?
Totally clean. Yeah.
Wow. Was that hard? Or were you like, your mind was made up?
Yeah. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. I was interested in sports.
Okay.
And my parents, so I was raised Mormon.
Okay.
And, so they instilled in me that that's not something we do.
Right. Did you feel pretty confident because of that decision at the time? Do you remember?
Confident about
you, like walking around, because a lot of times in high school, we put on a mask that everything's good, and I feel confident I'm good, but underneath the surface, I mean, were you a pretty solid kid, or
I think I was pretty solid, but I think there was a bit underneath the surface of questioning, what am I going to amount to? I think the fact that I went to Salt Lake Community for like a semester or two, and didn't like it, and I think that kind of wore on me a little bit. Like, man, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
What am I going to amount to? Am I ever going to be successful? So there was that underneath, I think. But for the most part, high school was a great time, and I would say I was confident.
Okay. Did you have, now reflecting back, was there some beliefs that you had maybe that started as a younger kid, some beliefs that you had about yourself and the world that held you back? Even though you weren't doing the drugs or the alcohol or anything like that, but was there some beliefs that kind of held you back?
Yeah, I think if I remember back that thinking to myself, like, I'm not really good enough was kind of always there. I wasn't the best player on the baseball team. Like, my grades were good, but not great.
Right.
Not such to get into like a college, get a scholarship or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So there was that underneath, I think.
Yeah, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've met with thousands and thousands of people over the last 25 years. I would say that's the number one belief that holds people back is I'm not good enough.
Sure.
Because I think what happens is we do a lot of comparing. Just like you said, I wasn't the best baseball player, so therefore obviously you're comparing yourself to the other kids.
Right.
My grades were good, but not the best.
Sure.
Again, comparing. And I think when we compare is when we start feeling, or it starts cultivating this belief that we're not good enough.
Sure.
Right? Which leads into a whole bunch of other things as well from that. But I hear that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
I'm doing that. So, so let's jump ahead of then a little bit, because kind of describe what happened and kind of how you got involved, or when you finally not finally, but you made a decision that you were going to start using, or what have you.
So I had dated this girl for a while, and we were having sex, and I think that was one of the things that kind of wore on me. Like, I was always taught, no sex until marriage. Right. And so that kind of got under my skin a bit, thinking that, I was actually a bad person. Well, we broke up and ended up seeing each other out of town and slept together. And so we had been broke up for a couple of months, slept together, and then about a month later, she tells me, I think I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And at that point, it just felt like my life was over. Because I didn't want to be with this girl.
Right.
I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And
you're thinking you got a kid on the way.
I've got a kid on the way.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going to be a dad. It didn't turn out that she was pregnant. She was just late. But in between finding that out, for like the 6 weeks that I thought I'm going to be a dad, I went to spring break, and I was around some friends that partied, and I kind of just said F it, and I'm going to try this out. And so we started drinking, and I liked it. I liked how it made that feeling go away, of worried about being a father for the time.
For the moment.
For the time. So
sure.
I would say initially when I started partying, it was, that's part of the reason. Another part was just hanging around people doing it all the time, and seeing that, maybe it's not that big a deal.
Right.
And so that's where it started.
Yeah.
And then quickly after, things escalated to where I was drinking quite a bit, and then I started experimenting with other drugs, LSD, mushrooms, kind of you name it.
Right. Kind of doing everything at this point.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly it can escalate.
Yeah. It got bad pretty fast.
Right.
Although it was still at that point like a weekend thing. It wasn't daily like it got later, in my addiction.
Sure. What's interesting too is almost, we always say when someone relapses, the relapse always started well before you actually relapsed, right?
Sure.
And if you look, not that when you first started, we wouldn't call that a relapse, but you said it kind of started with you started having sex, and that kind of led you to believe that, I'm doing these bad things, I might be this bad person, and then you hear the news that maybe you're going to be a dad. Overwhelming feeling, I can imagine, at age 19.
Right.
That'd be scary.
Yeah,
and then obviously you're around your friends on spring break, and you're like, what the hell? I'm just gonna do this.
Right.
And and again, it's always a justification, right?
Sure.
You were justifying based on, well, I've already, I don't know if I can handle this, and my life's already messed up.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's totally true. Yeah, I totally justified it at the time, and throughout, the history of my use or using drugs, I justified it some way or another.
Yeah. At the same time, you mentioned that you were, you grew up religious and this and that. Were you still wrestling with the religious part of things at this point when you are now starting to party and stuff, or are you? What were you at that time?
At that time, I think I had, for the most part, moved away from that, but there was still some underlying guilt that I'm not doing the right thing, and that got worse, the more I used. So the more often I did drugs, the worse that feeling got of like, I'm a bad person. Yeah. I've got all this guilt and shame that's starting to build up, and that just fueled my use even more.
Yeah. And I hear that's very common too, that guilt and shame, and that shame piece. Guilt's good in the sense that it keeps us reminding us we shouldn't keep doing these things that are wrong. Right. Shame is where we get in trouble. Sure. Shame is, I am a bad person, right? Right. So it sounds like you had some of that. You're walking around, I'm just a bad person. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and there was, that wasn't super heavy at that point. It got pretty bad later in life. Right. The more I used, like I said, it got really bad.
Okay. So let's keep going. Let's move forward in your story. So you started doing that. Became a weekend thing.
So a few years later, and I had been kind of weekend drinking for the most part. I got married. I met a girl, and our relationship, the foundation of our relationship was partying, really.
Oh, okay.
I remember the first time I told her that I loved her, we were on ecstasy. And on ecstasy, you love everybody.
That's pretty funny.
And I remember...
I'm sorry, but that's funny.
Yeah, right? It's not funny, but yeah.
I mean, not funny, but funny.
I got you.
Yeah.
I remember, coming down from being high on ecstasy and going, oh my gosh, I told this girl I loved her. And I don't know that I do. And we were both really young, and kind of the next step was, I guess, we get married. You know, we're going to be together. We want to be together, and we're kind of.
So did you end up telling her you didn't love her, or did you
No,
just let it go?
I just kind of like
really
moved on, like, and
it's like I hope she didn't hear that.
Yeah, right. But no, I mean, we had a pretty decent relationship. There were some happy times for sure.
Sure, yeah.
But there was a lot of drug use, and after we were married for 7 years.
Okay.
And things progressively got worse as far as our use. We got into opioids, pain pills for the most part. And that's where things got pretty bad for me.
Okay.
For both of us, really. And in this relationship, one of us would decide, we need to stop. Like, things have gotten out of hand. Things have gotten out of control. All our money is going to pain pills. And so we need to get off. And so, you know, we would try, and then one of us would fall off and start using again, and soon after the other one would as well. And so at some point we decided, you know, we aren't really good for each other.
Okay.
And to clean up, we need to separate.
Okay. Do you have any kids? Did you guys have any
No.
kids together? Or
No.
like that? Okay. Just,
Never had any kids, and I
Okay.
think that there was always kind of the thought of, well, if we can clean up, then we'll look at that. We at least knew that our relationship wasn't healthy enough to bring kids into it.
Gotcha. Okay. So looking back, that's probably a blessing that,
Yeah,
based on where you two were
For
health-wise,
sure.
you guys were both so unhealthy.
right.
So that's probably a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
So we divorced, and I got on Suboxone maintenance, and we kind of parted ways. We kept in touch for a few years after that, and things got worse for her faster than they did for me. So I was on Suboxone maintenance and holding down my job, and being on Suboxone, it got me off of taking painkillers every day, but it's still no way to live life, because it just kind of mutes everything.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of a drive to like do anything really.
Yeah, you're kind of just even kill, right?
Yeah.
You're really you're high.
You can, yeah. I abused it. I abused it.
Most
as well.
people abuse it. Well,
Yeah,
I shouldn't say most, but a lot.
So yeah, I would skip days so that I would start to get kind of sick, and then take like 3 times the dose.
On purpose?
On purpose. So I would get high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd withdraw for a couple days so you could feel a big kick from it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's addict behavior.
Yeah. 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 It was pretty nasty. So
yeah.
I was on Suboxone for about 3 years.
Wow.
And like high doses of it too. And at some point I decided this is no way to live. Like I didn't want to like go out on dates. Like, I'm gonna be alone and just kind of mediocre for the rest of my life if I don't get off of this.
Right.
And so I did. I did it at home, and it was nasty. It was rough because I didn't know how to taper down correctly, and so it was not a fun time. But I was able to get off it.
Well, describe the detox, how brutal it was, because it's brutal.
I don't know
if people understand it. It can be.
It can be.
We know someone that actually handled it very well.
That's right.
The ninja.
Yeah, that's right.
Hannah.
Yeah, my fiance.
Yeah, Hannah's his fiance. We call her the ninja. She was on a previous podcast. They're just an amazing couple. But Hannah proved to all of us that it can actually be pretty easy.
Yeah, right. For me, it wasn't.
But at the time, you didn't know these belief systems back then, so you're just winging it.
Yeah, I didn't have any of these tools. My mindset wasn't right, and so it drug on for about a month, I say, before like I felt normal.
Normal.
And there were there were moments in there that I thought to myself, it has gotten so bad. Like, I hurt so bad. If I actually fall asleep, I don't know that I'll wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was scary.
Yeah, I bet it was.
So anyway, I got off of Suboxone, but I didn't fix any of these underlying issues that I had. All of these beliefs that I'm a pretty bad person.
Yeah.
At this point, my marriage didn't work, and that validated the fact that I'm not like this great guy. It validated the belief that I'd created that I didn't deserve love, and
Wow.
and it got pretty, it was pretty sad.
Yeah, and it proves how powerful a belief can be in a negative way. You started forming these beliefs.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you probably just walking around miserable.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I still remember the first day I met you, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a second here.
Okay.
But yeah, and again, that's why I love talking about beliefs, because we all form these beliefs from the time we're born that either set us free or hold us back. And obviously, drugs and alcohol and things like that just fuel these limiting, negative, irrational beliefs.
Yep,
and then,
absolutely.
And then our life mirrors it. And it sounds like that's exactly what was going on at this point.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got off of Suboxone, and I knew at that point I can't take opiates anymore. I can't take painkillers. I like them too much. It's a problem for me.
Right.
But I justified drinking. I thought, I can still drink though, right. Because I've never really had a problem drinking. So I drank, heavily for a period of time, and I had rules about drinking where I couldn't drink alone, unless I was working in my garage or working in the yard. Right?
Unless.
Right? I couldn't drink before noon unless I was out of town. That's
pretty funny.
Yeah, so these rules that I had obviously were red flags. You've got a problem with it if you've got to create these rules for yourself, right?
Yeah.
I've always...
Did you follow the rules? Just curious.
I mean, kinda.
Yeah.
They were there, but...
Right.
Yeah, not always.
Right,
not always.
Sure.
So I've always been really active, and I've had a bad back.
Okay.
Kind of. I mean, that was a belief for sure, part of it.
Yeah.
But I hurt my back in the gym, and it got really bad. So I blew out a disc, and for a while I was kind of dragging one of my legs around for a couple months because of the pain. So I had nerve pain going down one of my legs, and I had to have surgery. Okay. And I remember being in the recovery room, being hooked up to an IV of morphine, and kind of this light kicked on, oh, I remember this. This is the good stuff.
Yeah, wow.
And at that point, that's where things started to get bad again.
Okay.
So after my surgery, initially I gave the prescription of pills to my mother and told her, look, I've got a problem with this. Only give them to me as prescribed.
Right.
But I would cheek them. So I'd pretend to take them and not actually swallow them until I had, 6 or 8 of them, and then take all of those at once. And
playing the system, playing your mom.
Yeah, pretty much. And so then I went back to my physician, and actually after my surgery, my pain for the most part was gone. I had no more nerve pain. The surgery worked.
Okay.
But I had tasted those opiates again and really liked it. Because again, I still had these beliefs that, I'm a bad person. I don't deserve love.
Right.
So underneath, I'm not okay. Right.
Wow.
So I remember going back to my physician and saying, okay, I need a refill. and him writing me another refill, and it just quickly got to be worse and worse, to where I was taking more and more, and he stopped prescribing me, so I went to a pain specialist. Okay. And got me on some like really heavy drugs. Like this is when I started snorting oxycodone, and I had created a lot of anxiety for myself, and
I want to just point that out to the listeners. You created the anxiety for yourself.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that, because thought creates the emotion every time, and I used to struggle with anxiety too, and I thought something was wrong with me.
Sure.
But now that I know better, I was the one creating it with my own thoughts.
Right.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And and I also created like the pain for myself. Like I tell myself, oh, I've got a horrible back. I need to take these pills, even though inside I knew that wasn't the case, that my back was fixed for the most part.
Right.
So I started seeing a pain specialist, and the amounts of prescriptions that I was getting was ridiculous at this point. And because of the anxiety I created for myself, I was also starting to take benzos. So I was taking like Klonopin or Xanax, regularly. Mm-hmm. And those two combined, opiates and benzos, they tend to like knock you out for the most part.
Sure.
And so then I needed some kind of an upper to get me through the day. So it was either Adderall, or later when things got really bad, it was crack.
Jeez.
And so things just like spiraled.
Well, yeah, like, I can imagine.
Really fast. Mm-hmm.
So how much longer after your back surgery had you got to this point? How long had it been? Like just quickly?
It took probably 2 years to get to spiral like completely out of control, where I was, physically dependent at that point, where, I had to wake up every day and figure out, okay, where am I going to get drugs? Where am I going to get painkillers? Because if I don't, then I'll get sick. You get dope sick, and the prescriptions that I was getting, even though it was a ton, it wasn't enough.
Right.
I would run through those in a week, at best. And
you built up a tolerance.
Yep, I built up a tolerance. And so I remember a friend of mine at the time, he was also using. So we were kind of both validating each other's stuff, negative stuff. Right. And he told me, this isn't enough. We need to find a black market hookup. And that's when I knew when he said that, and I knew that thought, if I find a black market hookup, it's all going to be over. Because I had a good job, I made money.
Right. And
so I could afford to spend, a lot of money on this.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened. Things got really bad. I started to do things that I never would have, doing like shady drug deals in parking lots, missing a lot of work.
Yeah.
And all the while, like, that belief of I'm a bad person just got worse and worse, to the point where I got so down that I didn't want to commit suicide, but I didn't care anymore. It had gotten so bad that I didn't care if I OD'd and died. I had the belief that maybe everybody would be better off, if I weren't around anymore.
Wow.
So it was miserable.
Yeah. Had you come close to ODing before? Or?
Yeah. So right before I came into treatment, maybe 2 weeks before, I had a fairly important meeting at work, and I had a routine where I would set my alarm a little earlier than I needed to be up, get up, snort drugs, so snort a bunch of painkillers and some Adderall or crack, whatever I had, and then go back to sleep until that kicked in, and then wake up. I was also taking Ambien, and that kind of erases your memory. And
Right,
not
yeah.
to sleep, but to function.
Sure.
And
Wow.
so I woke up on this particular day and snorted my drugs and fell back asleep. And because I had taken the Ambien, when I woke up again to get ready for this meeting, I had forgotten that I had already woke up and taken those drugs. And so I doubled the dose. And the next thing really I remember is in the ER. My girlfriend at the time had found me with like one pant leg on. I'd got up, to get ready, started to put my clothes on,
And that was it.
and that was it. Went out. And so up until this point, I felt like I had hidden how bad my use had gotten from like my friends and my family, and now it's kind of out of the bag. Like the big lie is out there, and instead of going, wow, things have gotten so bad that I've put myself in the hospital, I've OD'd, I should really clean up. It just revalidated that you're a terrible person.
Right.
You're just not a good person, and this is what you deserve. And so I continued to use, and it wasn't long after that I came upstairs one day, and my whole family were in the room.
Intervention.
Yep, the intervention.
Yeah. So you come walking into this room. What are you thinking?
I was thinking, shoot.
Shoot, I'm sure that's what he said. Shucks. Darn it.
Yeah, it was. So at the time, I knew I need help, but I didn't want it. I didn't want help. Things had gotten so bad that I didn't care anymore. And so my whole family was in there saying, look, we'd like you to go to Detox, and then we would like you to check into a treatment facility and get some help. And I remember thinking, well, I just need to get off drugs. Drugs is the problem. So I'll go to Detox, because once I get off drugs, then everything else will fall into place, and I'll be good. So they said, okay, let's go. You need to go right now. And so I went and packed my things, which included the rest of my drugs, and threw those in my pocket, and off to Detox we went, and which is crazy thinking back. I'm going to go to Detox to get off of drugs, but I'm going to take all of my drugs with me and use while I'm in Detox. So that's how that went.
Jeez.
So I was in Detox for 7 days, and at one point...
Did you use while you were in?
Yeah, so for the first probably 4 days I was using in Detox. And I had taken a whole bunch of benzos and some Ambien, and I thought that I hid my drugs. I thought that I hid them, but when I woke up, I couldn't find them anywhere, and I still don't know what happened to them. If a family member found them, or if a nurse or somebody found them, but they were gone.
They were out. Okay.
So at that point, I was like, shoot, I guess I've got to do this, And so I was there for a few more days, and then someone from Wasatch, Corey from Wasatch, showed up, and he's like, all right, you ready to go? And I wasn't. I didn't want to, but I thought it's probably the right thing to do. Yeah. Like, I'll try it. Yeah. So
you were skeptical. I remember before, so I knew you were coming in. I didn't know who you were. But Corey was talking about you.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying, this guy named Jake's coming in. He doesn't want to come. He's really kind of, hesitant. And so he just kind of gave us a heads up to kind of keep an eye on you when you got here. So...
Yeah, it was scary. I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. I'd never been to treatment before. And I mean, I had heard of people going to treatment or getting themselves into rehab, but I had no idea really what to expect, and I was really scared.
Yeah. Yeah, and so from my perspective, when I first met Jake, it just blows my mind because this is totally not you. I mean, if people who know Jake today, you wouldn't believe me when I say this, but like when I first met you, you were thin, paper thin, and you just had this look of fear. I mean, you were scared. I mean, I could just see it in you. You were just nervous. You wouldn't even look someone in the eye. You'd look at you and you kind of look down, and you were really kind of fidgety. And obviously that's part of the withdrawal, I'm assuming as well. But you just seemed scared.
I was scared to death.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what to expect, and things had just gotten so bad. And at the time I had this belief that, if you get to rehab, then I mean, it's a terrible thing, right? Things are over for you basically. But it was the best decision.
Well, yeah, in reality, you actually hit the jackpot.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I say this to clients coming, every day, is congratulations. They look at me like, what? Like, you hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Because I really look at Wasatch, and I really believe Wasatch is different in a lot of ways from most treatment centers. I really look at it as a university versus a rehab. Because the stuff you learn here, I mean, think about how the principles and the beliefs, things like that you've learned here, what it's done for your life up to this point. Right.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's crazy.
So maybe let's kind of jump through that. So you come through treatment, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I checked in here and just really down on myself, like thinking that, this is what my life has come to. I've checked into treatment, and I remember I was in a meeting, and so we have like an alumni meeting here where past clients come back.
Right.
And there was a current resident who got up and said, I finally found some true joy and true happiness. And I remember thinking, you're a liar because you're in treatment.
Yeah.
So how could you possibly be happy while you're here? But the longer I was here, the more I kind of latched onto that idea that I could find some happiness. And so instead of, my perspective kind of changed to where instead of looking at this as like this big negative thing, I started looking at this as an opportunity. So this is going to be an opportunity for me to be the best person I can be, to find true happiness, and just work on all of those things underneath that had, held me back for so long.
And it's interesting you say that because we noticed that shift in you. We noticed, you're timid, scared, kind of, very guarded, wouldn't go anywhere when you got here. And then all of a sudden there was this shift. We all noticed it. And that's when things started to change. You started buying into that I can change these beliefs about myself, and I can form new, powerful beliefs. And dude, you did one of the most remarkable changes in treatment that I've ever seen when it came to your belief systems.
Right.
Like, you had some really horrible ones that we had identified, but to see you shift those in to be honest with you, it was pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then quick. You ended up being a leader here at Wasatch because of that. I mean, you were calling people out. You were like going, it was just interesting how you'd point out their belief systems and how you switched it, and you would challenge them to do the same thing, and you became this kind of leader here in the house.
Yeah, that was crazy for me to see as well, because I remember coming in and being terrified, and then by the time I had left, then people were looking to me for advice, and leaning on me, and it was just an incredible journey.
Yeah, and people, it's hard to even put it into words. I mean, you really were scared. I mean, scared of his own shadow is the way I would describe it. And then to see him, then now people are looking up to him for the example and asking you for help. And how did you do this? And why are you so happy? And how did this happen in treatment and what have you? So it was really cool and remarkable to watch that
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's part of, why I work here now,
Yeah.
is to be able to see that. I think that's an amazing
And
thing.
that I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I admire you so much for being here, because Jake was working. You had a really you were working at that company. I can't remember.
Promise Sports.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was the
And
IT guy.
You were the IT guy there,
Mm-hmm.
making really good money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be honest with you, when I heard that you were working here,
Mm-hmm.
when you came and started working here at Wasatch,
Mm-hmm.
and when you first start working here or any job, you usually don't make very much money in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really impressed that you were willing to give up the money,
Mm-hmm.
per se,
Mm-hmm.
to come here and do something you're passionate about, to give back. And yeah, money plays a part of it for sure. But you didn't obviously care. Like, you know what? I'd rather I want to be doing something that actually brings me joy and happiness, and to give back.
Exactly.
I was really impressed.
Thank you.
I still am.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, ultimately, being happy is the most important thing, right? And
end of the day, yeah, for sure.
yeah, and so, yeah, like you said, the money is nice, but it's so fulfilling
Mm-hmm.
to help people. And, I've got my track record, I've got experience, going through this whole process, and I'm passionate about the process because it worked for me,
Right.
and made such a huge difference in my life.
Yeah. And I love using you as an example with new clients who come in. I'll always use you because they come in like, I can't change, this is too hard. They play the victim, kind of like you did when you got here. And I always point you out, well, Jake was in your shoes, and they don't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no.
You're right.
No, not
Yeah.
Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, no, Jake was scared of his own shadow, train wreck, didn't want to be here, had these beliefs that he was no good, couldn't do it, and now
Right.
look at him, and they just they don't believe me.
Yeah, I get that all the time. They're like, dude, I can't see that in you. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
I
I'm like,
love
yeah,
it.
no, I was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's jump ahead just a little bit here now. So now, what are some of these beliefs you have now that you have about yourself and the world that kind of set you free, set your soul on fire, that kind of thing?
Okay.
Let's talk about those for a minute.
So now, I know that I deserve love. And I know that I believe, or I know that I'm a great person, that that I can do whatever it is that I set my mind out to do. I don't have any limiting belief that I'm not good enough to do that, or I'll never amount to anything. So really, I wake up every day and tell myself, you're a great person, and you've got an amazing life, and today's going to be amazing. Today's going to be great. I wake up and do that every day, and it really makes all the difference.
Yeah. And I think too, I think you also realize, based on watching you from my perspective, is you finally realized there was nothing wrong with you.
Yeah. No, there was never anything wrong with me. I just thought that there was.
Yeah, and that's the most delightful surprise, is when you actually recognize nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
And that's where I saw that transition flip.
Yeah, it took a lot of therapy.
Yeah, it took a minute
to get there. I remember I thought, I've got this problem with anxiety. I'm always going to need benzos. There's something wrong with my mind that I'll always need something for my anxiety, and that's just not the case.
Right.
Like, this is anxiety that I had created for myself, and that's just a belief.
Yeah, and what I love what you just said there, Jake, is, when I view you now and rub shoulders with you every day now, you have a very powerful mindset. And I know in the beginning, and I heard it from people, they thought at times you were arrogant. And it's so funny that people are okay with you cutting yourself down and telling yourself you're no good, but as soon as you start believing in yourself, it almost intimidates people. They have a problem with it. Because they're not used to it.
Right.
Like, how can this guy be so confident, man? Oh, that's got to be totally fake. There's no but the truth was, it was genuine, right?
Yeah.
And now, obviously, when people are around rubbing shoulders with you, they know it's genuine. They just, because it's every day. I mean, everyone who knows you now, they just, I mean, I can only imagine what your family thinks. I mean, they had to have been blown away.
Yeah. Well, they knew, though. They knew. They've always believed from the beginning. And when I finally got to the point where I felt like, oh, I deserve love and I am a great person, they pointed out, we always knew that. We always knew that. True. It's so good that you finally recognized it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know that you ever would recognize that.
Yeah. You know, and I love that because I really believe people don't come here to change. They come here to wake up. Because when you were a little kid, you knew all this stuff about yourself. It was there. You know, you sound like you had a great childhood. You were confident about who you were. You played sports. You weren't doing drugs, any of that. I mean, you were doing what a kid should be doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then what happened is you kind of forgot all that. So you came here and you woke up.
Yeah.
Really?
That's right.
You didn't really change.
Right.
You woke up.
Yeah.
Don't you love that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So tell us right now, what does a day look like now for you? Maybe kind of tell people what you're doing these days.
Okay, what I'm doing these days. So I'm about to get married to the woman of my dreams, this girl that I met in here, amazingly enough.
Which usually doesn't work out well, folks, but...
In this case.
But they kept it separate. I mean, it didn't really happen until afterwards.
Right.
Right.
Totally.
So...
Yeah.
But yeah, they met in here.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. We're planning a wedding right now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like super involved with it, but...
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's basically, here's what we're doing.
It.
And you're going, okay.
Yeah, like whatever you want.
When is it?
So it's April 27th.
Right
on.
on.
When we're tying the knot.
Yeah, you're getting up close.
Yeah, it's going right on us. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for both of you. I mean, again, I know Hannah really well. I couldn't, see two better people getting together like you two. I'm so happy for both of you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're
so
really
you're
great
getting
together.
Married, and what else? Obviously, you're into fitness and you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. We work out quite a bit. Hannah goes to the gym with me. I've always been pretty active and into fitness. She hasn't really, but she's kind of found that passion, and so it's great that I can go do one of those things that I love to do with her.
Yeah. Very cool.
That's great that way.
Right on.
I ride mountain bikes. I run quite a bit, although in the winter not so much.
Right.
But I'll start that up as soon as the snow's kind of melted off the ground.
Sure.
Then I work here, and...
How long have you been here now?
It'll be 2 years next month, I believe.
Yeah. And how long have you been clean?
We're coming up on 3 years. So you and I met almost 3 years ago.
Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The cool thing is I know you're not one who focuses on the days.
Nope.
I've been this many days. And I love that about Jake as well. It's not about, hey everyone, guess what? It's just what he does. He's just clean and sober. He just, I love that too, because that's like outside of here when I'm with my group of friends, I'm not telling everyone, hey, I've been clean this long. I mean, it's just who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of how you carry yourself.
I don't, it's not something that I necessarily identify with. I'm clean and sober.
Yeah.
Because it's just the way that I live my life now.
Yeah.
For the longest time I used, and that's what I knew, but now I found this new amazing way to live, and it's not, I don't struggle with that anymore. I don't struggle with, I hope that I don't pick up a bottle and start drinking one day. That's not in my head.
Gotcha.
It's just a different way that I live my life, and it's so much easier, honestly.
Yeah.
Where before I'd have to wake up every day and worry about when I was going to pick up, and there's just so many amazing things that come along with sobriety where like I can look you in the eye today
Right.
and not think, well, does he know what's going on? You know, in the background, does he know that I'm high?
Yeah.
And to be able to look a family member in the face where for so long, you know, I was shifty and I wouldn't look someone in the eye and talk to them. I think for me, like a huge part of all of this is honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist, whom I'm also friends with now,
Yeah.
Jed, works here.
Yep.
He told me early on that nothing negative comes from honesty. And that's a belief that I've picked up and ran with it. And I completely believe that. So
Sure.
I'm honest in really everything that I do. And I know that if I continue to be honest, then I don't have to worry about ever using again.
That's beautiful. I totally agree. You know, we say this a lot here, and I say this to my clients: if you're honest, you'll never relapse, because you actually have to lie to get to that
That's
point
right.
again.
Completely.
So if you're honest, you'll never go down that road again. So that's beautiful. Well, so I wanted to, you know, I wanted to maybe ask you to give a challenge to our listeners.
Okay.
You know, something that you maybe do in your life that that's been really helpful. You talked about some of that obviously already, but maybe let's give our listeners a challenge that they could do that would help them.
Okay. Well, I would say one of the bigger things for me, besides honesty, is I'm a super positive person. And so I wake up every day and say, today's going to be a great day. And then I carry that with me throughout the day. And positivity to me and finding a positive perspective on everything just makes a huge difference in my life. I'm able to find happiness a lot easier. And so I would challenge just for, you know, a week or 2 weeks, make a serious effort in being positive every day. I think that smiling helps as well.
Sure.
Like throughout the day, just smile, and it's contagious.
Yeah.
I find that I work with the clients here, and I find that when I'm more positive around them, there's more positivity in the room, and it, you know, like I said, it's contagious.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge is just find some real positivity. Be positive.
And it sounds so simple, but yet it's so powerful.
Totally.
And it truly is. And, you know, those that know Jake and work with Jake here would say that's exactly who you are. You're positive. I mean, you conduct yourself that way every day. So, yeah, there's the challenge. I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, 19-year-old self, what would you tell yourself if you could go back? What advice would you give yourself?
Well, that's a tough question because I feel like I wouldn't change a thing because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be today. I know that kid should have known, you know, that you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. I don't know that I actually
would change.
I wouldn't change anything. Because like right here in this moment, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
I love it.
And, you know, I'm with the woman that I'm supposed to be with. And all of these things, you know, happen for this reason.
Wow, I love that, folks. I hope you heard what he just said. You know, I say this all the time. My 10 years of addiction, greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I'm sitting here talking to Jake. I wouldn't be talking to Jake. I wouldn't know Jake had I not gone through that. So I really believe life happens for us.
I agree.
And because we can learn from it, even in the most difficult, hardest times, it's what makes us who we are. So it's beautiful to hear you say that. You know, I've known Jake for, you know, close to over 3 years now.
Right.
I've known Hannah for close to about the same time. Two of the greatest people you'll ever meet. So, folks, please listen to this. Please share this. Please, if you have anyone who's struggling with drug addiction or even just a self-esteem issue because of a belief system they have that holds them back, share this BeliefCast with them, because Jake's story will hopefully inspire them. You know, give them hope that, man, if Jake can do this, so can I. And anyway, it's my pleasure. to have you on, and
yeah, it's been great.
You're a great friend and a great example to me, and
Likewise.
I'm so glad I know you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So thanks for being here, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
You're awesome.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, peace out, everybody. See you later.